Alright guys, this is going to be your tutorial on how to do the hosted tournament races. Obviously you're going to go to host a tournament race. If you're starting it new from the beginning, obviously you're going to click here and create a new tournament. You're going to give the tournament a name and you're going to click create. This takes you into your session host session host setup screen. Put your passwords on it. Set your track, your car, your laps, number of racers in the server, when it's going, your weather, and all that other stuff. If you've ever hosted a race before, you know how this goes. So most generally, we set them up to be an open practice with a qualifying. Usually do those for an hour with the password on it. Obviously, the track and the car and stuff, some of the stuff's going to change. You're going to go to this little drop down box and you're going to select open practice plus race. That's going to give you the option, or excuse me, my bad, ignore that part. You're going to go to qualifier. You're going to go to open practice plus lone qual. It's going to give you the option to set it to 20 minutes for practice time. You're going to set it to 4 laps, 5 minutes, and for qualifying we usually run 2 servers. This is automatically set to automatically generate right now. What I usually do is leave the practice on auto generate, and then for lone qualifying we will set it to whatever we decide is necessary. This down here is where your settings are. You can predetermine or preset admins, who you want admins in your server. They will automatically be admins on the server when the server launches. You can set, this is where you set the incident limit. You can allow entry by iRating, license ranking, all that crap. Set, the level of difficulty, I guess you'd call it, hardcore level. You can completely turn off aids. And these are all some pretty self-explanatory server settings. So let's say that is complete. You've already done that. Qualifying and practice are over. Everybody's done qualifying, and you're ready to set up the second part of this. So we're gonna pull from one of these ones that I have hosted. I got a whole shit ton of them. Probably need to clean some of these out. But you'll go here, like whatever you named it here. Like let's say I just named it VLR 3. That was the name of the session. I created it, set up the server, we ran qualifying and all that stuff, and then the session ended. It'll show up down here in this middle box under active tournament, and it will say, instead of Team VLR Gobbler 100, it'll say that VLR 3 right here. So you'll select it. We're going to select the old Gobbler results just for an example, and you're going to click continue. Right here it'll show you all the previous rounds it's pulled from. Round 1 was qualifying. It'll give you the results. 85 will be session 1. 86 will be session 2. I mean, if you need to for reference, you can click on them and check them out for whatever reason you may need to. And then again, it's just your typical server settings, how you want to set up the next step of the tournament, and you can apply different settings. If you're running yellows, you can set your single file, your double file, your fast repairs, single file restarts, double file restarts, so on and so forth. And again, you have the option to set the track. At this point, we just automatically generate and carry over. And again, you got your optional settings here, which these should all stick from the original session that you created and should stick throughout any round of the tournament you do. I mean, there's a box right here. You can select final round or preliminary round. If you select final round, when the race is over, it'll close out the tournament and delete it. You select preliminary round, it'll always stay open. The reason I have all those listed in the active tournaments is because every round I set to preliminary round in case something crazy happens and I got to go back and reset up a session or whatever, or I basically have all the results from all these tournament sessions I've ever hosted. So again, it's probably always best to leave it on preliminary round. If you're getting a clusterfuck of sessions, you can just delete them. In the third box down, that's what that box is for. But again, here's your session settings. For the current format we're running for fixed, it's just open practice plus race. I do 10 minutes of practice to give Shock time to share the broadcast, make sure we get everybody in and where they need to go, and then you set your laps and how many minutes the race is. It'll ignore the minutes unless it's a wreck fest and you go over 100 minutes. Then when the 100-minute mark hits, the white flag is thrown the next time by the leader passes. So that's that. I mean, that's all that stuff you just kind of mess with when you host. It's all pretty self-explanatory. This is the tricky part. You're going to go to the manage field and grid. You'll have this option after qualifying is complete once you have qualifying results to pull from. We're going to drag everybody into the current race field. This is everybody that made the feature, it would appear. So there's 24 cars in here we took for the Gobbler. For explanation's sake, we are going to say that we are going to do 3 8-car features, because normally we do the main feature and 2 non-qualifiers. So in order to set that up in sequential order based on qualifying, you're going to set it to 3 servers. And you're going to have 3 servers, 3 server boxes here, and you're going to have all these cars up here. You can manually drag them like so, put them wherever you want, like, you know, you can put them here. Once you have more than one, you can drag and drop them to switch positions. This is the part where it really sucks, though. Once they're in a server box, they cannot be changed. The only way that, like, you know, say you're manually dragging people to the sessions, like we were doing the season before. If you're manually dragging people, the absolute only way you will be able to switch from like server 2 to another server is if there are, we'll set it to 6 servers here real quick for just example's sake. You can go north and south, and that's it. I can take myself and I can drag myself down to server 5. Alright, maybe I can't even do that. I thought you could. Okay, you can't. So yeah, it just, you're locked. Once you're put in a server, you're locked. And that's just the way it's set up right now. It's just part of one of the things that makes it a pain in the ass. So we're going to clear all these out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Okay, so we got our 24 cars here. I think it's oh no, there's only, okay, so we're just gonna click start over. We're gonna get everybody back in here again, back in order like they were. So this is everybody back in again. You can see right here, so it'll tell you how many drivers are in the current race field that you can assign to where you want to go. So right now there's your 24 drivers from the Gobbler. So we're gonna set it back up to do 3 servers, feature 1, non-qualifier, non-qualifier 2, basically. And this is a very important part. In order to get it to perfectly divide up into 3 servers, usually we'll take 24, but for this example we're only going to take 8. 24 cars, 3 servers, 8 apiece. And then you're going to apply grid in sequential order. Another great part about iRacing, the first place pole sitter for non-qualifier 1, which would be this server 2, and non-qualifier 2, which would be server 3, for whatever reason always gets left out. And it looks like they've added the wrong, you know, this Tommy Champagne right here, this guy right here, he should be over here pole on server 3. Unfortunately, iRacing's gridding system is not the greatest at all right now as far as this hosting goes. So you got to take P9, or which, you know, after qualifying, this will be a qualifying time, not a finishing position. You got to manually drag him. The first guy will be pole heat 2. This guy will be the pole heat 3. If he'll go in there. And you see he's 18th, and 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And then we got 9, 10, 11, and so on. Now this one's fucked up because, unfortunately, again, this is how iRacing rolls. We got 8 in the first one. It usually puts the first 24 in just fine, and they start getting screwed up past that. So this, I would consider this close enough to go ahead and launch. Now we've got, looks like we've got 10 guys. Wait, let's see, 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, it for whatever reason, I don't know why, it skips 9th place. It takes your first 8, 1 through 8, just fine, skips 9th place, starts the second non-qualifier at 10th, and goes through 17th. Because that's 8 cars. So this one's got 9 in it, and this one's probably only got 6 in it. Or something of that order. But you get the idea. It's kind of annoying. But once you're in your box, you can switch them however you want to do it. Like if we were doing an invert right here, let's say we were going to invert the top 4 based on qualifying time. Obviously, these are finishing positions on the example. All I do is I'll take Austin. He's 4th. If the invert's 4, he'll go to 1st. And then it'll go the next guy in 4th. He'll go up to 2nd. And then Capron will go up to 3rd. And there you go. We just inverted 4 people. That's how the invert works. And you can add more drivers. Like let's say, I don't know. Let's say Drew Phillips. Let's say he has a provisional from last week, or he got left out because Howard happened to host that week and didn't put somebody in, and you need to manually add him in because you owe him one. You're going to type his name in there. You click on the magnifying glass, and it'll show you all the variations of Drew Phillips that they can find. Obviously, this would be the one right here we're looking for, and I just added him to the current race field. And if he's going to tail the feature, you're going to take him from the race field. You're going to drag him. And, I mean, wherever you put him there initially, it doesn't matter. You can always drag him, move him again. Drew Phillips is on the tail. Now, for example, I'm going to start this over again. And I'm going to reload the drivers. Now, let's say Josh Phillips. Oh, no, he's in there. Let me get my numbers straight. Ryan Flatten. Let's say he makes the top 8. But he qualified and attempted to make the top 8 on time, but he missed it. But he's owed a spot in the top 8 due to, you know, like I said, a provisional or something like that. The way I do it, I'll drop him up here to the recycle bin. It will not grid him, and it will not use the algorithm to grid him in the field as long as he's up here in the recycle bin. As long as you don't clear the recycle bin, he'll stay there. So again, we'll sequentially grid him. Again, left out the poles of the second and third non-qualifier. So again, you'll drag them down, and then put this guy where he goes. Looks like, boy, it looks like I really screwed it up on that one. This is a great system we got going here, iRacing. Anyways, okay, so the reason I put Ryan up here in the recycle bin is because normally based on his finish, like we'll say he qualified 11th. In this example, he finished 11th. Let's say he qualified 11th, but he goes to the main feature. What I don't want iRacing to do is take him from the current race field and put him in server 2, because then, as I said earlier, you can't move him from server 2 over to server 1. So I've got to exclude him from the gridding algorithm, and I do that by putting him in the recycle bin. And you can put as many drivers up in here as you need to, as long as you don't hit this button right here and clear the recycle bin. Then I can take him from here, drag him back down into the current race field, drag him down here, put him in server 1, which would be feature 1, and then drag him to the tail. And we have Ryan Flatten. That is how he tails it, or gets put on the tail with his provisional. That's how the provisionals work. So when you're all done with that, you're going to click done. Or excuse me, I take that back. This is the part that I forgot to tell Howard. So since it automatically gridded 8 guys into the first server, that's correct. It did that part right. But we added Ryan Flatten as a provisional. So Ryan Flatten is the 9th car. There's 9 cars in server 1, feature 1, whatever you want to call it, because of the provisional. Now, what happened to Howard was I forgot to tell him that he needs to take this box, and once you have everybody gridded, if you did not qualify for any of these races, if your name is not here in any of these 3 server boxes that I've gridded you guys in, or gridded the drivers in, then you cannot enter the session as a participant. So after you do that, you got to go to this race servers box, and you can change it to whatever number you want from there. We'll say 44. Now, obviously, only these 9 people in server 1, these way too many in server 2, and the 5 or 6 in server 3. Those are the only guys that are going to be able to join the session as competitors, because they're the only people entered into the session through the gridding system. But now it's set to 44 drivers. Had I left it to 8 drivers, the 9th guy to join the server would have been asked out. You know, it basically would have been, the first 8 spots would have been first come, first serve, because when you leave this at 8, when it launches these servers, it's going to launch them with a max driver count of 8 people. And that's not going to work because we got 9 people in feature 1 with Ryan Flatten being added as a provisional. So what you need to do is go here and just change this number to be bigger than the maximum number of participants that are going to be in the session. So like normally lately we've been taking 24 cars. 2 provisionals would make 26. As long as me and Shot keep screwing up on stupid little stuff here and there, we're gonna have 33 car features before we know it. But anyways, that's besides the point. You need to make it so everybody that is gridded in a server has a spot to join. So like I said, if it's number of racers per server is set to 8 and you have to add a provisional, then you need to make it at the very least 9. Your smallest number needs to at least be the amount of people participating in the largest server. That's what happened to Howard. I forgot to tell him that, and that part of it was my bad. But that's pretty much how it goes. It's a pain in the ass. It can be a headache sometimes, you know, like if I'm trying to drag a name and I accidentally, you know, double click on this over here, it's gonna take me to another screen. It's gonna open up to buy the Ford Fiesta over here, and I'm gonna completely lose everything I've done here. And that was a real headache when we had to manually drag and drop everybody across 6 servers. So this, I mean, that's the gist of it. Am I still recording? Okay. But that's the gist of it. When you're all done there, I'm going to confuse the fuck out of you guys. But the reason I had to do it was to 8 in the beginning was when I did the sequential grid to pull everybody from the current race field. When it hits 8 or 9 or 10 or 4 or 7 or 11 or whatever random number iRacing chooses to kick over to the second server, because it doesn't always do 8 unless it's the first server. I had to do that. That way, when I lined them up sequentially, when it hit the 9th person, it would kick it over to the second server. And then once that second server hit 8 people, it would kick it over and start lining up the third server and so forth, so on and so forth. And then there's different options to, I mean, you can do top 8 inverted, you can invert by percentage. You can just randomly line everybody up. Now, all of these are just like the sequential. None of them, they're not going to line. It's probably not going to line up the top 8 perfectly. Probably not going to randomize perfectly to your percentage. When you snake, it gets kind of crappy. You can't really snake across more than 2 servers very accurately and stuff like that. But I'm starting to ramble on. I kind of want to make this short so we don't take forever to upload. But that's basic gist of it. And it will be like that across however many rounds you host in the tournament. Like this one was only 2 rounds. We had the 2 qualifying sessions to line up the 3 races, or the 3 versions, or maybe we only did 1. I don't remember. But say this race is over and those 24 guys finished. You can only pull results from these previous sessions. Like if we obviously did 1 race because there's 1 subsession ID. If we did 3 features, a main feature and 2 non-qualifiers, when you highlight over this R under round 2, you would see 3 different subsession IDs. The lowest subsession ID, like say there was a 45 on the subsession ID, that would be your second server. Your server number 1 is always going to be the lowest subsession ID. Server number 2 will be the next subsession ID, and it goes in line. Every once in a while, like you see the session price right here, when you host, it'll tell you, sometimes it'll compile all the, like, you know, right now I've got 3 sessions set up for 3 servers, like I explained in the Manage the Grid. I've got 3 servers set up, and each session, sometimes it will count, like I've got 3 sessions with 10-minute practice times each. So that's 30 minutes. And then I've got three more sessions, or, you know, and then the other 3 sessions also have the 100 laps with the 100-minute timer on them. So each session's 110 minutes. So across all 3 sessions right now, we've got 330 minutes. iRacing's the web page here is kind of derpy. It's telling me I've only got 110 minutes of 120 allocated. So at this exact moment, it's not considering that there's 3 servers. So I'm going to get to host this at 75 cents. You know, and it's about 50-50. Sometimes after I grid, it'll count the 3 sessions all separately. And so I'll have 330 minutes worth of sessions it's going to want me to host for. And it's going to wind up, it's going to be, you know, it's going to say $4.50 or something like that. And if you mess around here with the session duration and you just switch it, so like for 9 hours, it's $9. If I'm kind of babbling here, but anyways, it's sometimes it will recognize that there's 3 sessions of 110 minutes each, and sometimes it'll just think it's one session of 110 minutes each, and it just depends on, you know, like, right, because you see this in yellow under session under allocated, it means that it right now it thinks there's only one server of 110 minutes, so I can get away with hosting this thing for 1 hour at $1.13. Excuse me, there's 110 minutes, so it would be 2 hours. And see, now what it just did when I changed this is it kicked it to $2.25, because now it's charging me for all 3 sessions. If I would have hit the purchase and race now without messing with the session duration, I would have got that session for 75 cents. But now I'm gonna have to pay $2.25, unfortunately. I don't know. I haven't really figured out if there's any way to work around that, but yeah. That's one of those old things. You save yourself a couple bucks, especially when you host as many sessions as I do. If you do that right, it'll save you quite a bit of money over the long run. But there's, you know, all the rest of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory. You know, you can set when exactly the session's going to launch. When I set up the qualifying servers for the league races, it's, you know, the current date. It automatically gives you the current date, or you get this fancy little calendar, and then you just manually type in the time. You got to keep this format. You got to make sure you keep this format. So 7:40, that's when our races start for me, because I'm Central Time. And, you know, this is where you'll put in the fixed setup. You click fixed setup, you'll click select. If you got your servers, if you got your directory set up right in iRacing, you know, like these are the 2 street stock sets right here I have in my personal street stock setups directory for iRacing. And then you just, you know, highlight it and you'll click upload. Then you click apply. Now what that just did is it uploaded the setup to iRacing servers. Basically, it's an available setup now. It's there for me to pick from. I could pick any one of these 2 that I've uploaded, or the default setups that iRacing gives you. You'll click the setup you want to use. You'll click select. That part's a bit confusing sometimes, because for whatever reason, iRacing, the order they put them in, the first setup right here in this box right here is your race. This is qualifying. I would have done them the other way around, but hey, that's just me. So, like, if you're doing a special amount of fuel for qualifying, you know, you need to take that into consideration. And I think I've done a pretty good job of explaining this to you guys right now, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off before I end up making you guys sit through a 20-minute fucking video. So, yeah, good luck.